Okay, I think it's time to come back. Um, okay, Stephen, I just wonder what your thoughts about publishing the recording to the people who are registered and attended this meeting.
The
And if you,
recording, sure.
yeah, and if you said you should want to share the PowerPoint, I can distribute the PowerPoint at the same time you send to me. And then also, if any handouts you want to add to it, you mentioned a couple of documents or links in your talk. I can also include that in the distribution. And generally, I only distribute only to the people who have registered or came to the meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. I did already send you the PowerPoint, and I also sent a link in response to Ann's question. I don't know if she's still here, about tax credits. I did find a recent article that explains the tax credits and how you get them for small businesses.
I guess let Dale, since it's such an effective, fearless, I guess, leader, moderate the afterward small group for a change. Not quite sure how she wants to handle, identifying who to give the floor to for the questions.
For people who have video, you can just wave your hand, but I need suggestions for the people who are attending without video, how they would, maybe we should unmute everyone and put people, please wait till you're called on. But if you don't have video, you wait till someone's finished speaking to speak up.
With the latest release of Zoom, I can no longer unmute everyone. I can request the person to unmute, but they have to unmute themselves. So.
And are they able to unmute without requesting that?
People just have to unmute themselves.
Okay. So for all of you not on video here, if you'd like to speak, please wait till there's a break in the speakers, and then you can jump in. We also have the raised hand.
But that feature is only available in the webinar product, and we're not using that one. We're using the meeting product.
I realize that, but okay, Anne, why don't you unmute yourself? Ann Thomas.
Yeah.
Under the participants, people's hand, there's an icon for hand raising, and we now have Mina has her hand raised. But before we get to Mina, I'd like to kick off the discussion. I have a problem that I've run into, and I think it's going to be more universal. Every retail establishment is now putting up plexiglass between the customers and the salespeople. And if it was difficult before to understand a restaurant worker or to place an order, or now with the plexiglass, it's almost impossible for me to hear. The plexiglass goes up fairly high in most of these places, and there's usually a small cutout to pass your credit card or the receipt, but it's been increasingly difficult to communicate. And I wondered if Steve, you had any advice regarding that.
Well, the only thing I can say is the plexiglass is the least restrictive barrier that they can come up with so far to effective communication that also serves the safety interest. because the plexiglass is thick enough, it doesn't reflect usually. And the person can get as close to the glass as possible. That usually helps. Sometimes they've been told to keep social distance, but they also have the plexiglass, so they stand way back from where they would normally be standing at the. I noticed this at the post office. They stand way back from where they normally stand, and that makes it even harder because you're looking through the glass and they're far away. So sometimes you can just ask them, could you step closer to the glass, please? And if they are, and then if there's less distance, it's easier to be able to see. But I'm not coming up with anything except to go to the alternative methods like, sharing a note or, some other thing where you can get socially distant but not have the glass between you. But some of them won't be willing to do that. That's their station. They're going to stay there. So I would just say, ask them to step closer to the glass. And if that's not working, then try passing a note.
Okay, Tony. And
Yeah,
we'll have Tony and then Ann Thomas.
George, can I share my screen?
Sure.
Okay, so this is just a quickie.
Go ahead.
This is something that has come up on the market that you might be able to get from whoever your looper is. There is a microphone system and a hearing loop that comes on this acrylic shield. And a lot of people have trouble hearing with the mask, with the distancing, and with the shields. It's not always people with hearing loss. The cashiers have a difficult time. And then you have people who have hearing loss that don't have hearing aids. That's even worse. So this is something that you may want to talk to your local looper about.
That's good.
Thank you. That's good. I didn't know that.
Yeah, excellent suggestion. I was thinking about the microphones that banks used to have when they had the plexiglass between the customer. They used to have a microphone and a speaker.
Here's the thing. I really think that all of us should advocate for this right now, because do you see how fast those acrylic screens went up? Those acrylic shields went up? Well, they should have all gone up in consideration of people with hearing loss. They could have, they still could. And the banks could also use this. There's so many applications for this. What a wonderful chapter project that would be, to get some literature and talk to your local grocery stores, retailers that have the plastic screens.
Yeah, I agree. Ann Thomas.
We have an example of that in the Bay Area, the pilot program that we did with BART. They have one at the BART station in, I can't remember whether it's Warm Springs or Fremont. And if people want to know, I can definitely verify that for you. So that's at the information booth at that station.
Is that Kay? Are you?
Yeah, I wanted to just mention something not too important, but I was not able to read some of the text that Steve was giving us to read, because what I see right now is great. That I see 6 people up above, and then the big screen has Dale. And when I was seeing him, for some reason, those pictures up at the top were coming down the right side, and they were cutting out some of the text. And it's just a little technical thing that you guys can work on, but I don't know if anybody else had that problem.
Yeah, George Chin, do you want to speak to
George Chin?
You need to unmute.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, there you
Okay,
go.
I will mute myself.
I was just going to say another way, if you're raising a hand, the camera doesn't catch anybody's attention. There's also a reaction button down the bottom. It says a clap hand or a thumbs up. You press one of those, it'll show for about a minute, and that's another way to try to grab our attention.
Yes, but what Kay was saying, there are options for where to place the captions and the transcript on your screen so that they're not covering, or the pictures of people are not covering the text. George, do you want to speak to that?
I think what you're talking about is the captioning that was done by PowerPoint when Stephen shared a slide. And it just happened that the PowerPoint shows the caption at the bottom. And likewise, Audrey's captioning is also shown at the bottom. I have to check, but I thought I saw something in the PowerPoint where you can actually move that one, the PowerPoint captioning. But something to look into. I cannot change the position for the captioning for the Zoom.
Excuse me, it was not the captioning that's the problem. It was the placement of the pictures of the people that were cutting on the side, and they were cutting out some of the text. And so the captioning was fine. I could read it down below. It was not bothering anything.
When the PowerPoint was on, there was a button on the top, very top right corner that you can click on. It's not on there now. I don't think it's only when the PowerPoint is on, and it shows a picture of two squares, a smaller and a larger, or a very small rectangle. Anyway, one of those icons gets rid of the pictures on the side.
Yes, you always have the option, and on most screens, it's the upper right-hand corner where it says speaker view and gallery view. And you can toggle between those two views to optimize being able to read the text. It changes where the small video images are. Let's get Steve Derby and then Ann Thomas. Go ahead, Steve.
So I don't know, Kathy, if this is your issue, but this happens to me in other Zoom meetings is one of the Zoom settings is you can have what they call the Zoom view, which is every time somebody talks, they come up in the center of the screen in a great big picture. And then you can take that off so that when you have a large group like this, people don't just keep popping in and out. And that keeps it from impinging on the shared screen, and it may have been some of the problem with the captioning. But I understand your problem is when you have the speaker view, it moves everybody else away from the speaker and it puts them down the side, which is where the chat was. Was that the problem?
Okay, you need to unmute yourself. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
So when the images of people come down the side, and then there is another presentation, which would be to the right, there's a bar between both of those images, and you can drag that bar to the right or to the left. So that makes the images either bigger or smaller on the left, or the presentation, on the right, or the presentation, which is on the right, becomes bigger or smaller. So you actually have the capability yourself of controlling how you like to view that screen.
Great. We have Robin Miller. Unmute.
Hi, I'm just wondering, so I find myself in a lot of Zooms with friends and family and, colleagues, but it's not like a company or a law firm or anybody running the Zoom. But as I understand it, the only way to get captioning that is to pay for a higher version of Zoom and a higher version of Otter and integrate them. And I'm just wondering if there's a way from the perspective of the participant. Well, I don't think there's an easy way to get captioning. So I was wondering if you thought, Mr. Derby thought there was a chance to enforce under the ADA getting Zoom, because everybody uses it. It's so prevalent. You can't, you miss meetings if you're not willing to use Zoom, or you can't, communicate on it. Yeah, that's my question. If you think Zoom can somehow be required. I mean, I know there are different programs, like I guess Google Hangouts, but a lot of people don't use it. So, or a lot of that's my.
Well, when you're a meeting participant, you are using the format and the platform that is dictated by the host.
Right.
And if that's your boss and you're on a sales team with 5 or 10 other people and your boss decides we're going to use Zoom, then that's what you're kind of stuck with. To answer your question more specifically, effective communication is enforceable in the workplace. And it's also part of another word for that is called reasonable accommodation. And it most assuredly applies to employers. It usually applies to employers of over 50 people, but there are state laws that apply to employers of over 5 people. So you can get it one way or the other, maybe not through the ADA, but through another one of the laws that we talked a little bit more about. I most assuredly think that if you are a person with hearing loss and you're required to attend these meetings, and this is how, for example, you show your boss that you know what you're doing and you get your merit raises and maybe you get your promotions and you're being handicapped in that, let's take out the idea that you get fired. Let's just say that you just don't advance because you can't show your stuff in the Zoom meetings because you don't understand what's going on and you can't participate. You can't let your ideas flow and you can't hear your fellow, your coworkers. I think that's a very big deal. And the case has not come to me yet. If it does, I most assuredly will take it though, because when you changed how you communicated with your employees, you needed to adjust for people with hearing loss and other disabilities. So I most assuredly think that's a good.
Right. No, I get that. I'm wondering about when it's not an employer, when it's just a friend or family, you have a group of friends or whatever, Zoom, everyone uses Zoom for a lot of stuff. I don't know exactly how they make their money, but my point is, can we somehow force them to not require you to buy a higher version or whatever it is that you have to do? So it's easier to get captioning when you're a participant without having to jump a lot of hoops or just hold your phone next to the thing, which doesn't always work, next to your computer, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Zoom is not going to be considered a public accommodation because it's in the virtual environment. There are some jurisdictions on the East Coast where websites and stuff are actually considered public accommodations, not here. This is the Ninth Circuit out here in the West. We don't have that rule. It may be going that direction, but it took the Department of Justice to take a certain stance for those East Coast jurisdictions to say, yeah, websites are public accommodations, but out here we haven't gotten that far. So I don't think there'd be a way to make Zoom do that. Maybe under the Unruh Act, maybe, but the problem is they would say, it's an extra service, you're forcing us to give it to people for free. That might be an uphill battle. I'd have to think about it some more.
Okay, Ann, you've been waiting patiently, Ann Thomas, and then we'll have Tony.
So Robin, both Google Meet and Microsoft have offered extended, unlimited caption video conferencing software for everybody at least through the end of the year. Sherry Eberts, an HLAA board member, launched a petition asking all of the video conferencing software platforms to offer free captions, and that resulted in Google and Microsoft extending that to everybody. So we have 44,000 people who've signed that petition, so everybody needs to sign it. And Stephen, I don't know if you've seen the petition. I'll send it to you after the meeting.
Okay, good. I'll pass it around.
Yeah, I think you should send it and to the group. I've signed that petition. I've seen that. Yeah.
Send it to me, Ann, and I'll include it with the material I sent out with the recording, the PowerPoint and stuff, the attendees.
All right, Tony?
Okay, well, with your permission, I want to show you how I can show you captions right now, separate from what we're already doing. But I need to share a screen, so is that okay with you?
Yes, George, why don't we give her a share screen?
Okay. So this is Live Transcribe, and it's on my Android phone. And this would be really great for little family meetings if you're going to use Zoom. Otherwise, I think Google Meets is great. So this is just an Android phone that I have Live Transcribe running, and I'm sharing it with you. Now, it does take up an awful lot of room on the screen. So what you need to do, you can make it smaller by using those two little lines. This is for people with computers who have downloaded the software. There's two little lines that you can change the shape, right and left. You can make the pictures larger and the captions smaller. This is just a unique way to do this. I hold small Zoom meetings with the volunteers of my chapter and whatever, and we can't afford captioning for those, so I use this.
And
I also want to mention that it doesn't have to be a phone. It can be a sampling tablet, which is the small one's an 8-inch one. You can get at Costco about less than $150.
You know, you're right. You can use a tablet, but it'll take up more space. Now, I was just on another Zoom call with Santa Barbara chapter, and one of the people there was talking about getting an Android phone from Amazon called Blue, B-L-U. And you can get one for $50. As a matter of fact, Sherry Eberts talked about this very thing. She has an iPhone, but she really liked the Live Transcribe and would use it often enough. So she bought herself a cheap Android phone. You don't need to have it hooked up to a carrier. You just have to be in Wi-Fi. And it'll operate like a tablet. Now, I'm using a phone that I upgraded. So this is an old Android phone that I'm using, and it's just perfect for running Live Transcribe. Like
the
this.
video, Tony, is the so you're using the phone for the transcription, but using Zoom for the computer for the video?
We're on Zoom right now, so I'm using Zoom and I'm sharing. I on my phone, I have the Zoom app. I put in the meeting ID and the password, and I signed up, and I'm a guest on your Zoom right now. And George made me a co-host so I could share. So that's how I'm sharing my phone with you, running Live Transcribe.
So does your live,
Oh, go ahead, Robin.
I'm sorry, does the Live Transcribe app allow you to phone into the Zoom meeting, or how do you connect the two?
Well, I have the Zoom app on my Android phone. It's not a telephone call. It's just a login.
Okay.
You have to have the meeting ID and the password. You just sign in. No audio. No, do not connect the audio on the phone.
Okay.
It's just, yeah, it's just the video. And then when you share screen, so if I stop this right now, you just see the top of my phone.
Right.
But I touch the little man at the bottom here, and that starts the transcription. And there you go. We're off and running.
Oh, I think you just told me the secret I couldn't figure out how to do. I tried to do that once,
I had the same problem.
and then I got a complaint from the phone saying the microphone's already in use. I can't do it.
Right. No audio for this phone. Another thing that may be a little bit of a problem, and that is Transcribe wants to have exclusive use of the microphone. So what you need to do is in settings, you need to turn off permissions for any other app that might be competing, including Zoom. You want to turn off the permission for Zoom in your Android phone that you're using.
No wonder. Okay, I'm gonna give that a try.
Okay, let's get Steve and then Ann Thomas.
So I didn't want to be disparaging to remote captioning and the technology, which is speech recognition, which allows for captioning of events that aren't live captioned. The problems that I see with live captioning is not so much about the technology. That was an issue for a long time. It still is a little bit. But the primary issue is the interactions. For example, if you have a meeting and you are captioning it through some sort of technology like Tony has, that's fine for Tony because it can hear her. It can hear her because it's right next to her. But if you have a large room and people don't have a microphone and they just start talking, then nobody can hear what's going on. And then maybe the host, the meeting coordinator repeats the question, but the person doesn't hear it. The real problem with it is not about the technology. It's about the limitations of whose speech can be transcribed. And that was kind of what I was meaning to say. If it sounded like it was all about technology and all we had to do was improve the technology, that's not true. What really we have to do is come up with a way that everybody involved in the meeting can have their speech transcribed to an equal extent, including people who are just other participants.
It just transcribed everything that you said, and if somebody else would speak now, it would transcribe what they're saying. So everybody in the room or everybody in the Zoom, this conversation will be transcribed, one speaker at a time, and it'll be transcribed.
Yeah, because I'm standing, or I'm sitting right next to the screen with a microphone. If I was to go stand 10 feet back and start talking, I don't think it would hear me.
Well, yeah, and the captioner wouldn't necessarily hear you either. So, and this is a low budget solution for small meetings. This is not intended to be for a corporate meeting or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I have this phone sitting next to my computer almost all day long. So if I'm on telecoil watching TV or something and Alexa talks to me, Alexa will actually, and I just got her all excited, sorry. I hear what she's saying, I can read what she's saying to me. So I just use this all day long. You can see I'm on 39% battery here because I run this thing down.
Hey,
all day.
let's hear from Ann. You have to unmute.
And for those of you who don't have an Android phone, there are numerous other apps that work equally as well in the same way. There's Ava, which is more robust than Transcribe. And there are several other apps too. So you need to play around with them and find out what you think works well for you. If you do not like seeing everything on this screen, or you can't get the people who you're talking to agree to do this, you can also open up a separate window and be able to do it that way as well.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Lots of options with the technology, and it's constantly evolving, and pressure on the tech companies is actually driving them towards more and more adding accessibility features to their product. So I'm sure this will be a continuing learning curve. Okay, Mina. Go ahead. No, start over with unmute.
Sorry, this is Mina talking. I have two questions. My first question is to Anne. It's regarding that BART station. And I did not understand what you were saying about the BART station and which BART station. So I would like you to repeat that information. And then the next question is for Tony. And my question for Tony is that she said that when she uses Live Transcribe, the audio is turned off. So does that mean that, for example, for this Zoom conversation, Tony is not hearing anybody's voices? Is that what that means? Okay, those are my two questions.
All right.
So, yeah. So, Minna, if you look at your screen, and on the left-hand side would be either the PowerPoint, or depending on how it's set up, could be the PowerPoint, could be the actual person who's talking. And if you have your Zoom set up so that the pictures of the presenters are coming down on the right-hand side, if you look between those two windows, there's a bar that runs up and down. And when you click on that bar, you can slide it one way or the other to expand or contract either the presentation or the people. Yeah.
Okay, I was not looking, this is Mina again. I was not looking at how Live Transcribe transcribed me. It obviously made a mistake. Okay, so Anne, my question is regarding BART. BART.
Oh, BART.
Yes, the BART station and what you said about the BART station. But here we have a very clear showing that the ASR did not transcribe me correctly. Okay, so BART.
Yeah.
What were you saying about the BART station?
Yeah, what do you want to know about it?
I don't know. You said that one particular BART station has something like I don't know what you were saying, a window or a shield that we could go and see what it is. That's what, I don't know what you said. So
okay, so Tony was showing an example of a hearing loop technology that was designed. It's called a speech transfer system.
Yes.
And so it was designed to provide two-way communication with a hearing loop that's part of the shield. So in conjunction with the BART Disability Access Committee, many of us in the Bay Area participated in getting BART looped and in the pilot program that they have at one of the BART stations. And they have that transfer system installed at that station. And I can't remember whether it's Warm Springs or it's one of the two. I can send you which one it is later. Or, just Google BART pilot program information booth and it'll come up.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Nina, you had asked me about, do I hear everybody's voices? Absolutely. See, I hear everybody through the speakers. I have a desktop computer and I have some nice speakers. And that's how Live Transcribe hears everybody's. It's through, because I have this close to my speakers.
You would need, my guess is that this is Mina again. My guess is that Live Transcribe would need you to have those external speakers in order for Live Transcribe to be able to do what it's doing.
Exactly. Well, I know somebody that uses a laptop in another room and they just prop up the phone next to the speaker on the laptop and they have the volume cranked all the way up. So that could work too. But I have these 10-year-old speakers that work great. They're nothing fancy. And, you know, and they work great. So that's what we're doing here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Do we want to hear from anyone else? Comments, suggestions, questions for Steve? All right, well,
okay.
Looks like we can come to wrapping our session. I want to
I just want to thank Tony because I just got the live transcribe to work. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful.
Great.
And
Thanks,
I would
Steve.
like to thank Steve for being here with us today. That was a terrific presentation, as always, chock full of information. And I'm sure if folks have follow-up questions, they can always get in touch with Steve. I also want to thank Audrey Spinka, our wonderful, wonderful captionist, who
Yes.
has supported the East Bay chapter for many years and continues to do so during the COVID crisis. And it will not charge us the full amount of time that she actually attends our steering committee meetings and our program meetings to support us. So she is donating part of her time, and we want to thank her for that level of generosity.
Robin Miller raised her hand.
You just muted yourself, George.
I guess Robin Miller found a raise hand feature. It's in the participant list. I guess Robin has a hand raised. Do you want to say something, Robin?
I think she already spoke, and I thought I unraised her hand. But Robin, I'm on the participants, and
Done, thanks.
where is the raise hand feature? Can you unmute?
You're asking me where the feature is?
Yeah.
And you click on participant. Somebody had to show me this.
Yeah, I'm on participants.
And then it just shows up on the right side of above the chat.
You can't see it, because you're the host. You're a co-host.
Oh, okay. Because I see just yes, no, go slower, go faster, but not hand raise. But okay.
If you're not a host, then you can see it.
All right. Well, I learned something new today as well. All right. Any other information to share? Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you all. Have a great weekend.
And thank you, Steve. And we will see you all next month. You'll get our publicity for our next month's chapter meeting. So everyone, take care, be safe, and stay well.